Hello, everybody. This is Ronny. I was asked by some friends of mine in the US to try to explain what is the view in Israel regarding the deal with the Arab Emirates and how do we see that here in the country. I'll be quick to admit that I don't have any inside information. I'm not a state official, and everything I know is based on what we read in the media. But the Israeli way to view that is maybe a little different than is being viewed around the world. Number one, we should welcome any such progress in the area. Any Arab country that wants to normalize its condition with Israel, that should be a blessing, and this is quite a big accomplishment. We do have some reservations and some confusion, some misunderstandings. Number one, it was announced in Abu Dhabi, I believe, a day ago, that the reason for the normalization will be stopping the annexation of parts of Judea and Samaria to the state of Israel. I think there is a much bigger reason for the Emirates to normalize the condition with Israel, and that would be the rising power of Iran. The Muslim Sunni countries are freaking out from the power of Iran in the area. They do understand they cannot confront Iran on their own. They need a strong ally, and they find Israel as a strong ally. And that may be the main reason why they decided to do that. But again, the reasons are not that relevant as long as they made it official. In the Arab Emirates, they spoke about a roadmap for normalization. I do not understand the term normalization. It's not a legal term in any way, and that can mean a lot of things, a very fluid term. In Israel, when Prime Minister Netanyahu made his announcement, he spoke about the peace treaty. Well, peace treaty is a legal term, and the parties are committed on many, many levels. And I hate to think that we are the only ones to make that commitment, and the other party offers normalization. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly it means. So once again, it looks as a step forward, and I'm sure that everybody will enjoy the benefits of the trade and the commerce exchange of knowledge. Israel will have access to assets in the Emirates, and keep in mind that Dubai is very close to the main harbor of the Iranians, of Bandar Abbas. So to have that access to these places, that would be a great benefit for the Israeli intelligence forces, etc. By the way, according to foreign sources, Israel is invested in the Emirates already. We speak about a lot of joint ventures and businesses, and therefore to make it formal has its own value. So how it's going to look like and how it's going to materialize, is it going to be a full peace with embassies, where exactly the embassy will be located, or maybe just a more fluid term like normalization? The problems are not that much on the international level. The problems are within Israel. For the last year and a half, we went 3 times to an election campaign, and Prime Minister Netanyahu made a promise, and maybe the most important one that he made was about the annexation. He committed himself to a partial annexation, to a total annexation of the Israeli communities or the settlements in Judea and Samaria. And therefore, the voters that voted for him feel not only betrayed, but very confused as well. Because the question is, the main thing that we want here in the country is our sovereignty on the land of our ancestors, and you gave it up. And gave it up for what? Some good businesses with the Emirates, is that worth the price? That will be the argument of the local voters of the Likud Conservative Party. They do not understand how that equation is going to work. You had the chance, they would say, to annex the land, and this was our dream for the last 50-something years, ever since the 67 war, and you gave it up for what exactly? What are the benefits that we are going to harvest, we're going to have with that connection with the Arab Emirates, that you already have such connections? That was not a good price to pay. Maybe you have to define once again the whole idea of right, left, and center in Israel, because when the leader of the conservative camp is basically committing himself to give up the annexation, maybe just for a while, but also to commit himself to the two-state solution, this is not what the Israeli right believes in. And therefore the problems will not be on the international level. The problems will be more domestic within Israel, to see how things are going to develop and what exactly kind of peace it's going to be. Time will tell. The only concern that I have, and this is just my opinion for that matter, is how is decisions being made in my country? Apparently, the Secretary of State only knew about that deal only a few minutes before the announcement was made. So who was the Prime Minister consulting with? Who was the one that gave him good advice or bad advice regarding the whole thing? How are decisions made in this country? This is a big one, not an easy one. if indeed you decided, Mr. Prime Minister, to give up the hope of so many people in the area, to annex parts of Judea and Samaria, and what we got in return is peace with the Arab Emirates, maybe that was not your call to make. Maybe you should be consulting with others, at least bring it to some kind of a referendum. But again, that will be a concern of just me privately about the process of decision making in this country and how many times it happened in the past. The decision was made by one individual, and he can be the brightest. It's not to the point. The point is how democracy is functioning and what is the decision making process in the democracy, and that will be of a certain concern. Well, I hope that I was able to give you at least some ideas and some perspectives, some concerns that we still have, and time will tell how this is all going to materialize. And until then, may the God of Israel richly bless you all.